Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at 5:37. We have, in addition to the agenda, we're going to put 6.5. You guys got the handout, the Whitecourt Horse Club extension. So I'll need a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Okay, all in favor? Carried. And then we'll move to number 3, which is the adoption of the minutes from November 9th. Wow, it's been a while. 2023. Everyone's had a chance to read them over, and if so, I'll need a motion to...
I'll make that motion to accept the minutes of November 9th, 2023.
Okay, all in favor? And that's carried. Business arising 4.1, the community service project update.
Alrighty. So it was, I know it's been a while since we kind of met in December, but we didn't really meet in December. We attended that meeting with the town, the joint meeting, and I think it went okay. I think we can talk about, we can use this opportunity, even though it's my update, to say like, what were our expectations? Were they met? What would we do different? Do we host again? So I was just kind of looking for feedback from you guys. If you want to do that now, we can do that now. It doesn't matter.
Okay. We can do that now.
Those of you that attended, what did you think? We'll just start with Isabel. What did you think?
It was interesting. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
What did you find interesting?
The community center that they're working on, I found interesting to kind of go through a bit more of that and find out what all is going to be in it. So.
Okay. Excellent. Okay.
I was a little bit late because like me and Dave were at a meeting before that, but when I was there, I really enjoyed. Like I like the fact that the town and the county are moving forward. You know, as a could I say partnership or just just being together, planning things together like as it should be. I think so. I really like that idea, and I like the way things are going forward with that.
I was unable to attend. I had caught that bug at that time. But I was really glad that the two committees did have an opportunity to get together, and the feedback I got was that it was a worthwhile meeting, and I am our council's liaison to that committee, and while I don't attend a lot of their meetings, I keep abreast with the minutes, I read through the agendas, and if there's anything that I feel I can add, I do. I think that committee really serves the region well. It, there's a lot of initiatives that they've put forth that continue to provide services to our residents, obviously, as well. So I'm glad that you guys were able to get out there and meet with them. It's a good crew, right? That whole group is a good crew.
Okay, I enjoyed the meeting. It was nice to get together with another group with similar views to and roles. I think for me, one of the things that I would like next time is we attended this one with the town of Whitecourt where they had their agenda. They went through their agenda as they normally would, as if we're meeting here tonight. So I think those opportunities to gather together would be more beneficial too if we came in with this. The focus of this meeting is what we can do together. Right, and really, whether it's a separate meeting or whatever, just that opportunity to really look at what we can do together in partnership. Because,
So so what I'm hearing from you is that you kind of felt like a spectator to their meeting rather than...
A little bit, yeah,
Sure.
a little bit, right? And there was opportunities to speak, which was great, and lots of great conversations, but I think the idea of coming together, I'd love to have the two committees together to build the agenda and what are we doing at this meeting,
Sure.
right? Together, and how can we support each other?
So to that end, Heather, that group always has a spring planning session. It's usually towards the end of April. I wonder if, I don't know if it would be the right opportunity for us to attend that, but perhaps we want to meet either after that meeting or before that meeting to provide input. Because I think everybody, I saw a lot of head nodding that it maybe wasn't that meeting, that co-meeting really wasn't what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I anticipated something very different. Where,
Sure.
You know, more like a tabletop opportunity where there's discussion and,
Yeah.
and you know,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
strategizing together.
Were they aware of what
Yeah,
our expectations
they were.
Okay.
We were, when we requested a meeting and, you know, these were some options, they came back with, this is the meeting that you can attend. And this is what's happening.
Okay.
So there was an opportunity to share our goals, and Tina went over that. I expected, and I'm with Dave, and I think you guys agree that we would have more of a discussion,
Mhm.
but they were aware of what we were looking for, but
So we were more of like just an agenda item?
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So I can reach out to Chelsea if that's what you guys would like with their planning session and say, you know, this is what we're interested in. Do you want to meet again, or is this? So Chelsea, I've been informed that Chelsea's my point of contact.
Okay.
So I can reach out to her if that's what you guys would like, just to.
And I think I would say yes. From a protocol point of view, they have an elected person appointed. We have a few elected people appointed. I think that conversation can take place at that level too, to try and stimulate that discussion, because I didn't realize that was the format.
I think that just continuing building the relationship between the two committees is the important key part to do, and I do agree, but I think that it was last minute a little bit, right? Like, I think that we asked for a meeting and then it was like, it was fairly quick. And I don't.
Probably at least.
Yeah, was it a month?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was fairly, like, we made it happen quite quickly. It was either one way or the other, but I do think that relationship building needs to continue, and I think that it was important to go with that angle, for sure.
My input from that was, I want to grow the relationship so we can start working together on different projects. I certainly didn't feel that's what their agenda was. To me, it was, I want to thank Woodlands for giving us members allowed to input the way we do at our meetings and feel like we're involved. And that's not what I seen at that meeting there. I felt it was very high level, and the others just sat and watched. That's what I got from it. So there wasn't a lot of input from any member at all. So.
And I can speak to that because I have attended those meetings, and typically there is a lot of interaction amongst the members.
Okay.
So
That's not what I seen
Okay.
there at all.
There was a lot of us, though.
Yeah, it might have been intimidating
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
But there was probably
outnumbered.
1-to-1.
Yeah,
right?
I think we outnumbered them.
Oh,
Yeah.
Really?
it would have been definitely close,
Okay.
because all of us attended except
Except
you,
me.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
Was
it's a-
Peter there as well?
yeah.
Yeah.
And Jeremy, yep.
Okay.
Which was good.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes. Jeremy said he was a little confused because he represents the county there now, apparently.
Yeah.
And so he didn't know if he could vote or not because it was his first meeting. And Peter said he didn't understand the instructions that we're just there as, we don't get to vote at theirs, so he was voting, and then Chelsea made a point to say only these people can vote. So then Peter was like, oh. So there was a little bit of confusion for that, but then it worked out fine, I think, after that, but yeah.
Yeah, it sounds to me like perhaps there just wasn't a real clear meeting of the minds in terms of what their expectation was. Like, maybe that wasn't communicated back to us, because what I'm getting you guys is that our committee was treated as a delegation. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
any delegation to
Definitely.
any meeting obviously doesn't have voting rights, right? So, but, okay, well, we need to, if we do this in the future, we need to make sure that the table's set properly.
Yeah, well, I think also this was their last meeting that they weren't really willing to alter, like they had some stuff they had to wrap up, so it wasn't that they couldn't, or I shouldn't say that they wouldn't, it's just that they couldn't, they wanted to wrap it up and there just wasn't time to have another meeting, if that makes any sense, so I think it was,
I think that's what I meant when I said it was rushed, like, it was, they had to finish their meeting
yeah.
in December.
But we did offer to do something in January or later,
Yeah.
and it's fine, like it's, we will, I agree with you, Tina, moving forward, I think we need building that, this was a good first, we wanna do this, hey, let's meet, now we can build that relationship more, so thank you for sharing what your perceptions and such were, so. Did we want me to reach out to Chelsea, is that an agreement to see if something else in 2024, or?
I think that maybe feedback from their group
Okay.
too would be beneficial to see how they, if they've seen any value in us attending and if there is some partnerships that can be had. It's kind of my
What
perspective.
No, I
format
agree.
they'd like to see? Okay,
As long as they're willing to have partnerships, you know, like maybe there's agendas that they want to present as a town thing, not as a combination of town and woodlands. I don't know.
I believe Bridget, the new president, said she saw some synergies with the Welcome program because they don't have that, and Tina, you had mentioned that we have our Welcome program, so there's one right off the bat that it really perked up the president, so.
Yeah.
I think there is more opportunities for sure.
Good.
I think before we reach out, like if it was up to me, before I reached out again, I'd want to examine what opportunities I thought we had to work with them, because that can be kind of an awkward question. You know, you get everybody together and if nobody has an idea, then it's kind of what's the point of meeting? So I think we should have that discussion internally.
Okay,
And,
you want that as agenda item in February?
well, I'm not necessarily making that motion,
Oh,
but,
okay.
you know, if the committee feels that that's what they want to do, in order to get what we are looking for from that meeting, we probably need to set our agenda and make sure that it's acceptable to them, and then we know, then we're gonna have a meeting and there will be an agenda and there'll be items that we can discuss rather than just just a brainstorming idea. And off the top of my head, I'd have to go through our list to see where the overlaps would be that we would combine with. I thought that was, the intent of that was more just to say, hey, this is who we are, and hopefully they put names to faces and it would further develop that relationship building that we're all after. So I think it's incumbent upon us to establish what we want to.
Sure. Do you want any, follow-up? We could have put some time aside to discuss that. February, March? Just so you know, we can set it aside, we can think about it and plan for it.
I think we need to, some time
Yeah.
to,
Feedback from them would be really good, though.
Yeah, I can
Sure.
reach out
Ask
to
what
Chelsea,
they want.
get that feedback, and then we can put it on an agenda item in February.
'cause
March
maybe
is FCSS grants, so it's gonna be, it's a long night. What? Okay, so I can reach out, find out what their feelings were, and then make an agenda item for February to potential, just discussion, okay? Yeah. Okay. Make better.
And I don't want to keep beating this up, but what I thought was happening, I didn't think we were going to their meeting. I thought we were getting together, kind of, just to,
Say hi and kind of,
yeah, just to informally have the committee members meet and establish that relationship that way. And that could be as simple as that may be all we need to do. Because what we did wasn't that, right? Like, we were a delegation and, like, did we present something to their committee?
Not to their committee, to Chelsea.
So, like, Tina, you presented something to Chelsea?
Yeah, I just kind of went through kind of what we do as a committee and the decisions, because I think that there's very differences in what their mandate is and what ours is, so I think that was kind of laid out a little bit.
You went over that, I think.
Yeah, and then, yeah, that was pretty much the only opportunity that we had. And then they went through the rest of their meeting kind of
Okay.
after that, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so my thoughts are that we need to know what we want to accomplish. And, you know, if it's just to get together and meet them, then that's pretty easy to do. But if it's actually, we'd like to work on this, this, and this, we have to figure out what those are. And maybe we don't want to do that. Maybe we just want to say hi. I'm not sure what the committee will come back with, but,
That was when we initially invited them, that was the intent, was to just, because we had no agenda items, we'd like to meet, we'd like to just talk about, you know, projects we're working on, overarching kind of things, and get to know each other.
so you presented that concept?
Yes,
That concept was rejected?
yes. We were just invited to their meeting.
Okay. And so did you follow up and say, well, really what we wanted was this?
No.
And the answer is we can't do that, or we don't have
That
time
is
to do
not,
that?
you know, this is the meeting and this is what, we'll give you a few minutes to talk about your stuff, and that's when I reached out to you guys and said, this is what overarching our priorities were.
So Dave, was that your expectation going in? Did you think that we were gonna be a delegation, or did you think it was gonna be an opportunity to meet people?
I thought it was more gonna be like
Yeah.
coming together rather than just being part of someone else's meeting, right?
Well, Tina, would you be willing as a chair to reach out to their chair and have that conversation? Are we breaching protocol to do that?
I don't think so, but it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that at all.
I don't think Joel would mind that.
Okay, and you know, I'm sure we could ask Jeremy, he sits on that committee now, to talk to, is it Derek that's still the representative, or is that changed? He was there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so then, yeah, that would have been after the org meeting, so he probably is still there, so. I think the more people that explain what our intent was, have that messaging, I think the better opportunity, the better likelihood we're gonna get what we want. And is that what we want?
And I think the members at large, that's where it came from, was when we were at the conference and we were all chatting about different projects.
Sure.
And we were like, wouldn't it be nice if we actually kind of came together on some of these? Because they're very like-minded, but not sometimes. So I think that's where the idea burbled from, was that. So if I have a conversation with Bridget and then council can talk to each other too, I
Right.
think that would be helpful.
Because it's important to remember too, that from a funding point of view, those projects that they enact, we help fund those.
Yeah.
And yes, we have a representative at the table, at their table, but, yeah, so if that's what we want, is to have an informal, just meeting of the mind and get to know, then to me, that's pretty easy to do, but we need to make it pretty clear that that's what we want.
So we'll have a discussion in February and get back,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
It's on the, yeah, I think that's fair. Everyone have a time to think about what, if there is partnerships, what they look like, and then we can have a conversation and then move forward from there.
Okay, that sounds good. Just further to my update, the budget was approved at council on December 20th. All of the things that I just listed here in my report were passed. There was no kickback, or everything went good. So we got an increase to our recreation, arts and culture grants. As you know, that those were reduced by 50% a few years ago. They're back up. So we've been really struggling because we went oversubscribed, and now we've got more money that I think we can do more with our grants. The $40,000 to the Whitecourt Library for our budget for programming is a go. I'm meeting with the library, I believe in February. I'm gonna present to their council or their committee and talk about moving in forward into an agreement for programming, and what would that look like? Like they've talked about hiring a programmer, so would that money go for that, or would it be for expenses for programming? Either way, we're gonna look at a report back to say, okay, this is what you got for your $40,000 at both places. So I'm hoping at their budget, they decide to enter into agreement with us, so we can do that 40,000, because that, our social needs assessment, I don't know if you guys remember, that showed us that the libraries in our communities are actually like community centers. People are going there for all kinds of needs and they can't keep up. And so this money is gonna help do some of that programming and take the burden off the money that the library already has. Now, we do fully fund the libraries, but this is like that separate kind of piece, so that we don't have the staff that can keep up to that. But if we can help them do it and accomplish that same thing, it's a win-win for both of us. The agreement with the Barrhead District FCSS was a go as well, so we're increasing that from 12.5 to 58. I talked to Karen Griffey, she's the executive director. They've looked at a few spaces, and then she got really sick, so she couldn't follow up with me this week. But I will update you on that, because that would be great if they can hit the ground running like in January with all that. Okay. And all the capital grant applications that you recommend to go to council were approved. We're organizing a girls' self-defense class, gonna be offered in February, March. I'm just waiting to hear back from the instructor on that, which date's gonna work. This is a partnership with BARC. BARC, are you guys familiar with BARC? Okay. BARC got a grant to do some of these other courses, and so by partnering with us, it's helping us, but it's also reducing their costs as well. And I did talk to them about a boys' self-defense class, because it's kind of, the playing field has changed. Some boys are finding bullying and such, and if they can have a class, so they're looking into that, because they've never had that request before. I said, well, if we're gonna offer girls, we're gonna offer a boys. So how that follows, we'll see. And interestingly enough, just to give you guys a little tidbit, I was thinking too, maybe for Seniors Week, we have a senior self-defense class. I don't know, it's just spitballing it. Miscellaneous wise, the content's been provided to the graphic designer, been working with Nikita on that. And what we'll get a first draft, we'll see. I've been invited to participate in the Town of Whitecourt Spirit of Youth Committee. We've had a couple meetings, really excited about that. They've got great things planned. And looking at keynote speakers, I talked to Dave about this. There's a young gentleman that goes to his school that sits on this committee. And then he was also at you guys remember Logan from the Community Services Joint Meeting? Who was in a 3-piece suit for his Christmas meeting. This kid is a fireball. What did you say? He's gonna be the next Prime Minister?
yeah.
Yeah. What a
Was that Logan?
dynamo.
Glidden. Very nice kid. Very nice.
Grade 8.
Yeah.
It's crazy what he knows. Just his opinions on the keynote speaker, I'm just looking and going, wow. What else? Oh, there was a thank you lunch that I attended at the Blue Ridge Hall. I think a few of us attended that. I did not, why didn't I include the picture? It's fabulous. Oh my goodness, that was so much fun. If you need to come see the little thank you card we got with all those little thumbprints. I thought it was, why didn't I attach it? I made it. Did you guys see the pictures, or is it just not on my copy?
Oh, I seen it on Facebook, so.
Yeah.
I probably just didn't attach it. I will send it to you. The Christmas Golden Agers luncheon happened. That was a great time. If you remember the gentleman that sang at our volunteer appreciation, they just loved him. This kid's been going all over the region. People are hiring him. So I'd like to say that Woodlands County started him out, but can't totally take credit. But they were very happy with their FCSS funding. So that was a great little luncheon that we had. And working with some of the groups to get their final reports for FCSS, almost all of them sent me that, oh my God, I'm so sorry I forgot about it. So we're getting some of those in. And I think that's it for my report. Yeah, unless you guys have any questions about that.
No.
No?
Is that where you would put in there that next year we'll get a recreation director back or manager or whatever?
That has been told to me, whether that actually, like, things happen in a year, but I was told that that is not 2024, it's 2025. And whether it's a coordinator or manager,
Yeah,
you
sorry.
don't know, so I can't confirm if it's going to be. I can tell you, as a bit of an update, that Joan has been promoted. She is now the Director of Community Services and Planning. What the rest of the org chart underneath her looks like, totally, we don't know. I do know that I will continue to report to Joan. We will replace the manager of planning, they're headhunting for that. And economic development and protective services managers will be reporting to Joan. So she's gonna have her hands kind of full, and then there's another admin person in there, but I don't know what that's gonna look like just yet. So recreation might come back on, but maintenance is again this year, and it's still over in infrastructure, so I can only tell you that that's what I've been told. I don't know other than that.
Anything else? Okay, so we need a motion to accept the community service project update.
I'll make that motion.
Great, all in favor? Carried. Do we want to do the roundtable or new business first?
Oh, I forgot to move that down. I'm sorry, Tina. That was me. The round table should be moved down. Okay.
We'll just skip over roundtable right now and go into the new business. Post-secondary bursary application. The committee, do you want to speak to it, or has everyone read it?
I can speak to it a little bit just to say that we had this, we voted on this via email and you all approved it. This is to ratify that motion so that it's on the books.
Okay, so we just need the motion then? Is there a motion? Somebody willing to make a motion?
Let the committee approve a post-secondary bursary to Brody Keys for the 2023-2024 and 2024-2025 terms.
Okay, motion on the floor. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, the 2023 recreation survey results.
Yeah, I hope everybody, that was a lot of light reading, this whole section's like pretty thick, but I mean, I just gave you the rec master plan, the state of rec, just for your reference, because you've been given those before. I thought, did you guys read over the results? It was kind of interesting that how many changes there were and what the changes were, so I'm just curious to what your all thoughts were on that before we go into mine.
Everyone's pretty
No
quiet.
thoughts?
Well, I guess I'll start it off. The concept or the notion of a rec master plan, I wasn't aware that, let me back up. If you recall, I said we don't have a rec master plan, and I was informed, yeah, we do. But it wasn't under the purview of this committee. And so I brought that up at council, and our CEO said, oh, yes, it is. And so then I was a little confused whether it was or it wasn't. So now it sounds like it is. And so this committee at least can dig its teeth into it. And I like your recommendation that rather than trying to solve everything today at tonight's meeting, let's let it percolate, if you will, and come up with ideas over the next year, because we should have a recreation manager next year, and then, well, I mean, I know the three councillors are gonna push hard for that.
Good.
The recreation, in my opinion, was one of those things that was easy to cut when we had to cut costs, and then I think it's sort of fallen off the radar in terms of awareness, and you know, it's our job to bring it back on the radar, and we're doing that. The committee's doing that, I'm doing that. And so when, I'm not gonna say if, when we get a rec manager, then they can start to utilize that plan and start to put those recommendations into effect. But it requires staffing, right? It's really beyond the scope of this committee. It needs a manager to bring recommendations back to the committee and say, hey, and you know, we're gonna say yes or no. But so we're kind of a year away is the way I see this, but I appreciate the fact that you've put given us these documents. And I would urge the committee to keep that master plan sort of on the front burner and try and, so that when that rec manager is in place, this committee can say, hey, we'd like you to do this, this, and this.
And if you don't mind combining, I think, the results of our social needs assessment and these will give them stuff to like hit the ground running. I found it interesting how usage has significantly increased, not just a little bit, like way up there just based on those results. And granted, I would have liked to have seen more responses myself, but you know, still, we saw a significant increase. But if we can, like you say, percolate, think about this, do some planning, say, hey, we've got a light agenda, let's add some ideas, let's do this, so that when they come here, we can say these are the results, and they can kind of make it their own, so.
Go ahead.
Is there an opportunity for us to kind of cherry pick a few things and send out polls over Facebook to try and get even more feedback from our residents?
I'm looking over at our communications person. Okay, I can talk to our communications coordinator, see if we can do that, okay?
Because I don't want to say it's really easy, because I don't know how to do it. But I think it doesn't cost that much. I know it's staff time, but you know, if there's a few things that this committee says, hey, we'd really like more, we'd like to dig a little deeper into this, this, and this, perhaps those could be included in a quick and easy poll on Facebook.
Okay.
Heather, do you know where the Blue Ridge gravel pit site sits? As in, the idea was, one of our ideas was that they had actually said that they would hand it over to us, the Alberta government.
Yep.
And when as soon as it was depleted. And I think that's close to being depleted with the expansion of that Highway 658. So that was one of the major things that we were working on before the budget got turned down. But I think that was, you know, rustic camping was a big one. And that's something we certainly.
And there was plans for that future development camping area out in Blue Ridge. So Andre, myself, Joan, Peter, someone else was sitting over here, I can't recall their name, met with representatives, and they were talking about how it's almost depleted, but there is some larger bodies of water that will need to be built up, because there's a path gonna be, so we're talking 2 to 3 years out.
Okay.
That's kind of where they were at. We just met with them to preliminary, but it's still, they're
Still
gonna hand
there.
it over to us, yeah.
Okay, I
But
just didn't know where that's
There's still some
at.
activity in the one, actually, in the little small one.
Because I know we had actually met with them too as a committee. We had gone physically out there and met with them.
Would you like me to invite them to go over the status of that in the next little bit?
Well, it seems like we have at least all year.
Yeah, I can
So
invite
it's
them
certainly
to
not a
give us a
rush, but-
status on that. I'm sure
Yeah.
they'd like to be a delegation.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the direction that the committee wants to go with the rec plan, I mean, you know, we have to prioritize what things that we want to put on the rec plan. And if everybody agrees, that's just something I know that I have a bit of a passion because there's a background in it, right? So,
Because of the what, sorry?
passion because I have the background
Yeah,
that was the direction we were originally going to go.
sure. Like,
So.
we're talking back in the 2010s. That's when that first came up.
Yeah, I don't think it was that long ago, but it's been a while for sure.
Well, I know back at that time, we had done a survey. I don't think we had a consulting group do the survey. I think it was a mail out, and what came back overwhelmingly was that
Camping.
people wanted camping. And then we had that key individual within the government that was retiring, and we worked closely with Kara.
Very
And-
close, yeah.
And do you remember that gentleman's name?
No, I don't.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
he
Kara
was the
would
one that
know,
gave
but-
us the idea
Yeah.
to develop
Yeah.
what we have now.
Well, and if you look on page 1/3, no, okay, it's different number, of the recreation survey, the one where it's talking about recreation activities, 72%. The question is, in what recreation activities do you and members of your household participate in Woodlands County? Camping, 72%.
Yeah.
And they mention it later. like what they would use. So camping is huge. Having them come talk to us just to give the status and maybe a timeline, I mean, it would just be for information, and we'd have to obviously do it again, but it was really interesting to see like the overall pictures where they had the up top, and they were current pictures where the water's pooling, where the lakes are, and what kind of work they're gonna have to do to get it up before they give us the keys to the building. So I can definitely reach out if that's what you guys think. That
I think maybe early fall or something, like
Yeah.
if that's, you know,
okay?
I mean, I would like it. I don't know what the committee thinks, but.
It's always good information for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. Yeah. Any other comments about the survey?
I was just trying to pick the data apart, like, you know, looking at, yes, I know how important the camping is, and I also know how many more families started camping throughout COVID, right? Because it was something you could do and get out and experience. And then just knowing in Whitecourt, looking at the community itself, you know, when I had looked at the survey, just the idea of, I think, two things that are lacking in the community of Whitecourt is the indoor child. You know, you look at Bugs and Beaners closing down and the outcry that came from that, and just how it came up on the survey as being 40%, you know, at the top for indoor facilities, and then just youth centers, you know, like I know we used to have the Boys and Girls Club and those types of things. That was, when it was uptown, it was a very big deal, right? And we could see it in our school. We don't see that anymore, right? So
Yeah, youth centers was number 3.
yeah.
Yep.
I know that just even the facilities that are booked up in Whitecourt, a lot of the groups can't even get gym space. It's tight, like for the amount of activities that we do have going on, which is, it's good that there's that many active people moving around, but when you're lacking space and facilities, it's definitely a challenge to participate in some of these things, so. Okay.
I didn't have much other that they did say there is a lack of awareness of opportunities. I don't know what else we could do other than, once we go ahead with like some programming and we move forward into that. When I was just the programmer for the county, we had activities going, it was based to raise awareness, like when we did stuff at Hard Luck, when we did stuff at Gold Creek. So people were attending and going, I didn't even know this place was here. So I think that'll pick up a little bit, but hopefully as we move forward, that'll change. And new facilities for young families, we're getting huge requests. There's a group in Fort Assiniboine that wants a spray park, and they're getting a little organized. You've got to give it to these women, they're getting organized. We're talking about funding, and when we told them about how much it costs to build the one we have in Blue Ridge, they were quite shocked how expensive it is, and then there's maintenance, and then operation, and such like that. So they were quite shocked. They just thought they could say the county build a spray park, and we'd go, okay. So if there is some potential partnership there once they get themselves organized for grants, and perhaps we can do that. But that was one of the things that was even on here, the spray park for families. I think it was the last page. Yeah. So.
Yeah, the demographics in that community are changing, right? It's, there's a lot of a lot of young kids that I think it was the grade 1 and grade 2 classes are the biggest that they've ever had, and so certainly seems like there's a need there.
Oh, definitely, and I think this is a good partnership that we could do working with the community group, as opposed to, I think it would have a better potential for operating, for sustainability, if we do that.
Yeah.
What else I wanted to mention to you guys is 78% said they would accept up to $100 property tax increase for enhancement of services. So that's like, okay, that's more. There's more that would say they'd support an increase than people that said they wouldn't. So depending on what we're looking at and how much we're, there's something definitely where to go. But I think there's more percolating, more thinking. We can see where there's other synergies. So it's definitely something that we can hand off to this rec manager. But like you say, because there's nothing in the budget for 2024, so we've got some time. But
So do we want to keep something like on a task, like, how do we not let this drop off?
Your next couple meetings are gonna be full with, unless we do something in February. March is FCSS grants, and then April will be recreation, arts and culture grants. So we could definitely say, I could do a task list or whatever if you want, but May, we could revisit this again. You guys, give you a heads up to say, okay, think about these things, potential, where do you wanna see? Is that something that I can make it an agenda item in May?
I think that's okay, like, it gives us some, there's no rush, I just don't want it to go away,
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
No,
right?
And then perhaps we can keep it on the agenda after that May meeting
Yeah,
for things to be added to.
yeah, conversation and.
Yeah.
Okay, I can, May meeting, agenda item.
Okay. There's no other feedback. Heather, are you good?
I think, like I said, it was just for information. I was, we could discuss what we thought came out.
Okay.
And how different the results were with, I think you've all talked about the little stickies that I've made. Oh, satisfaction, everybody seemed to be satisfied with. Oh, one thing, I guess I can share, my one sticky here. When they were talking about recreation activities, when they were talking about swimming, boating, I thought some potential that came out of Family Fun Day was how many people love the canoe rides. So I thought I'd talk to Nature Live and see if we can do some canoe. We did it before I moved, when I was just rec programming, we did lessons with them. So I think we can bring that back maybe this year and get some family lessons, because there were quite a few families that said they just had a blast in the canoe as a family. So we could definitely look at that, and more water sports kind of classes, we can look into that, and maybe some more bird watching. That was me sitting at my desk going, people that don't want to do necessarily recreation, maybe they want to go to Hard Luck and look at some birds, and because we did bird watching back in the day too. So
Yeah.
I think that was it for my stickies. Let me just check before we shut that off. Yep. Okay.
Okay, so we just need a motion to accept as information.
I'd move that the committee accept the rec survey results as information.
Motion on the floor, all in favor? Carried. The discussion about the Community Development Fund.
Okay, so members at large, you weren't at council when we were discussing this, but we had a community group, the Fort Assiniboine Parent Society, who are wanting to start a breakfast program in Fort Assiniboine at the school, came to council for some funding. They didn't fit in the other funding, as you know, because you do most of the other grant funding. They didn't fit in the parameters, so they came to council as an unbudgeted request. And based on that discussion, Councillor Kulkin, who, he's still not on, hey? Nikita?
Sorry?
Peter didn't join us?
No.
No, okay, he probably had some difficulties. Because I was hoping he could kind of talk about his idea, but his idea was maybe we need to come up with like a community development strategy / fund that would find out where the gaps are in some of this funding, so that maybe not necessarily toss money at it, but maybe it's more of a strategy, like where do we see gaps? Recreation funding, we have this, but these people, this group particularly didn't fit in any other group. So I believe it was Councillor Burrows made a motion to direct us here, which is what you have in front of you, to discuss this. Is this something that you definitely see the potential in? And then again, then you would, like my motion is to direct administration to begin research. So I can talk to other municipalities. Right off the top of my head, I can't think of one, but if we gotta reinvent the wheel or we gotta break some trail, let's break some trail. Just to tell you, I have a couple of ideas. I think there's merit in this. And I think this is definitely something that would help some of our community groups that have they have a bigger vision. For instance, the Fort Assiniboine Ag Society, they see expansion for them, but they're not really recreation ideas, so they don't fit in some of that. So I think there's potential, huge potential.
Yeah, and to speak to it from a council and a budgeting perspective, when groups come forward, at any time of the year, but especially around budget time. And there's no line item, there's no budget money set aside for, call it discretionary. As Heather's saying, you know, we have pretty strict parameters as to what we will fund and why we fund them. And there's some extremely worthwhile projects come along. And it's not that council doesn't want to fund them, but they just don't have a budget. They don't, there's no money to find. So this, you know, you risk, the perception for something like this could be a slush fund, right? And that's not what we want. But we also don't want to say no to somebody just because they don't fit in the box. And so we were in the middle of a budget meeting and didn't really want to devote the time necessary to flesh this out. So it was pushed to us, and I like your idea to go out and see what's out there. But I think there's an opportunity to create a fund that has the proper restrictions, if you will, you know, because we don't want it to just be a discretionary fund and then council gets to say yes to this but no to that. Like there should be some rules around it as well.
Oh, I believe that we can come up with, say, a matrix that, you know, they fall into, and
Sure.
I think there is, it's not just necessarily economic development, but if it's a community group that's doing something that has an economic development component that might increase their revenue stream, they can't apply for any kind of funding to do that, right? So this is, I think there's, but then you say, like, you can get into that slush fund if we don't actually kind of narrow it a little bit. So there is potential synergies with other departments, I think. And I think the community development strategy is like, where do we want to see this? What's the purpose of this? Yeah. Because we can't, as a municipality, this is just my opinion as administration, we can't just make it rain all the time. We can't just say, oh, you need money? There needs to be gain for this. So that's why I think having the parameters, like, it's a great idea, but there's no money in 2024 for this fund. So we have time to do the research, to develop it, to flesh it out, and for you guys to actually, this could seriously be a good ownership for you guys to say, this is community services. Like, you already do almost all the granting, but this would be a big win, I think, for the municipality.
And on the flip side of that, it's disheartening when you see a group come forward, they have a really good plan, but they don't fit in any box, and so you have to say no. You know, we all know how difficult it is to find volunteers in the community, and when volunteers have a great idea and it makes sense, but we can't fund it because there's no grant program available, and then I think there's a gap, and this hopefully will fill that gap.
I do have and I guess this probably isn't going to be popular, but a lot of the government always says no to food. Like, no matter what, no matter where, what, it just seems like, and I kind of want to know why that is. And because that's part of, you know, if we always come up with, you know, these strategic grants to fill the gaps, then community can't grow and do their own thing. Like, when you look at, say, the community lunchbox program, that grew because government doesn't fund food. So those are those programs that come up and people get creative and give opportunity to community to be strategic and do things differently, because the government or municipality is not just gifting them the money. So I guess if anything, I want to know why government is always steered away from the food piece and what the challenges with that are. Make sense? I don't know. I'm curious.
That's a good question. I don't have the answer for that.
I can tell you from an FCSS perspective, that is the one thing. So this group that asked, they didn't fit in FCSS because there's no food covered at FCSS.
And why?
From what we're told is that it's not a preventative piece. So that FCSS is supposed to be preventative. But I think when you can twist it, like having a full stomach, you learn better, you do better in school. But they're saying, you know, and it's a lot like justice-based programs. They won't fund justice-based programs. They won't fund, there's a lot of them, exercise programs for seniors. Like, there's so many bizarro ones. So maybe if we examine where the gaps are, and that's another thing that I think, it's not just finding out what other municipalities do, Where's the gaps? And then we can discuss those gaps, and do we meet those gaps? Is it our job to meet those gaps? Maybe this is where the gap is. Because I will tell you, Community Lunchbox is interested to apply for funding if we can do something like this. So they've said they want to get on the wagon because they can't get certain provincial grants, for food.
Oh, and I think that's where it's gonna open us up to other community groups that want for food too, and I think that ask is gonna be quite large.
That's where your strategy is. The strategy is going to be just as important as what the fund looks like. It's not. This is not a simple project. At first, I was just okay, but we've got time to do that. But your input is great. Where do you guys see other gaps? Like Tina mentioned, food. At the school, do you see any gaps, Dave?
Well, even, like, I just know, like, we're part of the Breakfast Club of Canada, and as much as we appreciate their support, it's still not enough, right? So, I can see what you're talking about, right? Because I see it in the school every day. I just know how hard it is for us to make that a reality for every day of the week in our school.
So how do you make it reality?
Our school council supports us, right? They do fundraising and they support us.
What is your grant? What's the value of that?
I don't even know off the top of my head.
I think the fort, wasn't it on the order of 20,000, just short of 20,000 that they expected if they had applied for it, but it hadn't been approved, and so they're trying to get the program off the ground, but it was on
I
the
don't
order of 20.
remember them having those numbers in there. They get money, they get in Alberta that goes to the school. It was almost $6,000 that they'd get, but that wasn't the Breakfast Club. They're on the waiting list for the Breakfast Club.
Right,
Central
yeah.
School pays, they use all of their Breakfast Club of Canada, and they get 27 cents per kid, I
Yeah,
think.
they were basing their numbers maybe off of Barhead's program or something, but
I had put in Barhead and Whitecourt Central in that RFD, if that's what you
Sure.
mean. I don't think the Parent Club had those numbers. They just said, this is what it would cost, this is the grant they get, and this is the deficit. So they were asking for the deficit and I think you guys gave them a startup, kind of, here you go, get off the ground. But the waiting list apparently for Breakfast Club of Canada is like 4 years. So we'll see what they happen. So food is an issue for the school too?
Yeah, we see it lots with kids, the kids that come without. It's every day, lots.
Isabel, give us your youth perspective. Are you hungry at school?
Well, I know as a student, a lot of them just don't bother packing lunches. They'll just be like, I'll just take this, and I know it's probably not something that you should do because there are kids that can't afford that at home, and like I do know a lot of students, they'll just be like, I'll just take this, you know. And my brother, he's in Central School, and he does a lot of stuff, like he'll be like, I set the breakfast program at school, I don't need to eat today. Even though I know, like, as our family, we can't afford that stuff. And there's lots of families, like, that 27-cent thing, like, really put a perspective on things. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And that she sent me the menu. I can send you guys the RFD if you want, but she sent me the menu and it was like waffles one day, grilled cheese, they get a little cup of fruit. Like, it's not meant to feed them, it's meant to
Supplement it, kind of.
boost them up. So, but Barhead was 52 cents. But they also had some supplemental community. They didn't get any from the municipality. It's just like Central School. Town of Whitecourt doesn't give any money to the school for food programs. They only get that kind of stuff. So yeah, 27 cents per kid per day. But they don't get a lot of food. Like, sorry, an Eggo waffle. I'm gonna, or a muffin. I guess she said there's some muffins. Anyway, yeah, they gave us a breakdown, but they rely solely on the Breakfast Club of Canada. If they did other fundraising, maybe they could enhance that program. That was, yeah.
And there's different things, like even within our school, we get egg coupons from them, and lots of eggs, like eggs coming out our ears, but I don't know if Izzy remembers, but we do our egg wraps, right? So we purchase the egg wraps with, you know, funds from the Breakfast Club of Canada, and then we make, you know, we get the eggs free, and we make egg wraps for all the kids that want them, so, you know.
And where do the eggs come from?
IG?
I-
Yeah, we just have to give them the coupons and that's it, and we get them free.
Okay, so where do the coupons come from?
Breakfast Club of Canada
Ah.
sends us a big
In
book
addition
of
to the
them.
grant?
Yeah, yeah.
So Isabel, you're saying that some kids just say, well, it's just easier to just eat at school than to take it from home?
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much, because a lot of kids pack their lunches, right? And then they're just gonna be like, well, I'm just not gonna do that today. Like a lot of the days too. And like in my school in Hilltop, they have like just a cart just outside the student services, and I've just seen kids just like take a bunch of granola bars or whatever, so. Like the thing is, I don't know that like families and students know how much is funded, because I didn't before. So.
Okay.
So you do see the potential in developing something of this kind of fund?
As long as we're aware it's gonna open the door.
Yeah, I think we need to be cautious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because we know who will be the first one on the list of that.
They've already said they're going to be anyway.
Yeah.
There's a precedent that was set in summer. She actually told Dave that they were gonna apply. Sorry, Reeve Cush, that they were gonna. So, and that's
Yeah, they have that right to
Right,
apply, for
that's
sure,
their- but
you
they-
betcha.
this fund, we would definitely, we have a year before, even not quite a year, because if we're going to be going, like if this is developed and we need to go to council with this, like this fund, you know, we wanna have our ducks in a row, but we do have some time to kind of flesh it out, think about it. What does it look like? If starting it out could be different, then it could be enhanced. In a few years, we could say, okay, we're gonna review this and go, oof, or we need to expand it depending on what we see.
And I think something to think about with this type of grant, the development of this type of grant, is just the idea of that it should be geared towards those that are in startup, right? Like those looking to
Oh, I agree,
initiate a
100%.
program rather than, you know,
Right,
if they don't have it, that should be the priority.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Triple star that idea.
I agree.
These are good ideas. I will have some more stuff for you to come back to.
Okay, any more discussion on that, guys? If not, a motion to accept his information.
I'll make that motion.
Okay? So you're directing administration to begin the research, okay? Just wanted to make sure that's what you were voting on.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm really losing my voice.
No, that's okay.
Kate, do you want the motion read out loud, or?
No.
Okay, and there's a motion on the floor, all in favor? And that's carried. Okay, policy 7002, community organization, capital and operating grant amendments.
Okay. Oh, speaking of losing my voice. Give you a little bit of history on here, as I did in the background. In 2019, when we were entering into our financial recovery plan, council asked us to look at ways that we can reduce funding but still support our community groups. So what we did at that time is we went from a 90% coverage for utilities to 75, so still supporting, but that reduction. And that number was also based on the fact that they were doing a 3% increase over 5 years, so that 15%, that's where that 15% number came from. And then when we looked at this and we went to council, we said, you know, a few of our groups are spending a lot of money on, which we're paying for like accounting. So one of our community groups paid $6,000 for their audited financial statements, which we reimbursed fully. So there were things that we thought, okay, that should be kind of your cost and such. So we also looked at reducing, we would just, no matter what you did in the hall, you would just get money. So we were like, well, show us some receipts. Is it maintenance? More focused. And then we also, like I said, we cut out the accounting website and some office supplies and such. So, and janitorial costs they were quite heavy. And then when we talked to the groups before we changed this, I met with all of the groups, the presidents, talked to them about this to say, your janitorial cost should be covered when someone rents the hall. You should be charging for that janitorial, unless somebody's volunteering to do that. That's not something that we would be, so. Giving you kind of like, sorry, corralling you, the council on February 18th approved amendments to the policy, and we decided then, in 2 years, we would review this. And then that wonderful COVID hit. In March, we shut everything down, the groups were suffering, it just wasn't good, and then we didn't review it because we felt it wasn't really fair to say, well, let's look at last year to this year because it was so different. So we wanted to do this in 2024 anyway. But as you can see, I added a letter that was sent from Whitecourt Ag. So they and Selma were the most affected groups. So what happened as we started reviewing this is Ag societies get a grant from the province. And then we would calculate everything based on, you can see in the grant parameters. And then we would deduct the Ag services grant. Well, what happened is Anselmo and Whitecourt Ag had nothing. And that's after like 75% of the utilities. So they have about a $30,000 grant. So that reduction for a few years really affected their revenues, their operations. And so, like I said, we knew we wanted to review this later. It's 4 years later, but it's still later. So based on that, the only major changes I'm kind of recommending is that we don't deduct that Ag Society grant from our groups. So our Ag Societies do a lot of work in our communities. They do a lot of the programming. These are our 3 most active community halls, Whitecourt Ag, Anselmo Recreation and Ag, and Fort Ag. So they are our most active ones. So what we did, just so you know, when they didn't get anything, I went to council and council approved a $5,000 minimum and that we would cover all of their insurance, which was helpful. Because, for instance, Whitecourt Ag's insurance was $19,000. So we normally subsidize that 75%. So you're not giving them any money, and then they have this insurance. It was just like a hit. The reason that Fort Ag didn't suffer as much is we give them a subsidy because they run an indoor arena, and they have like huge operating costs because of the indoor arena, all the operating costs for that. So they get a $40,000 subsidy. So that is the only reason they weren't affected as these other 2. So based on Whitecourt Ag's letter, I'm sure you read it. Those, unless you have other questions, those are my main recommendations. So once you look at this and you recommend it, the next phase is going to go to the Governance and Priorities Committee, and then it will go to council after that. We'd like to have this approved before their grants come in February, their operating grants, so that this can be applied for their upcoming operating grant. So that's kind of in a nutshell, unless you have questions or if I missed something.
Just in terms of the sequencing, if there was a hiccup and the GMP meeting was delayed or wasn't on the agenda, this and then was approved later after the operating grants had been approved by the committee, any changes would become retroactive.
The operating grant doesn't actually come to be approved by the committee, because if you read the policy, it's just I plug those numbers into a matrix, this is your check.
Sure.
So I usually get them, a few of them have already asked for an extension, so I usually get them by the end of February. So even if we hit a hiccup, I think we'll be good as long as we have something by March.
Okay.
And what we could also do is I could reach out to the committees and say, listen, I don't want to process this until this, so you'll get your check. And I think they'd all be, the only ones that were, like I said, majorly affected were those 2 groups. I think they'd be happy to know that we'll wait to get more money.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you hit a hiccup, you should be okay.
Sure. Okay.
I think that's awesome that the guys are helping these communities out like that. That's great.
If there's no other questions, I could move that the committee approves amended policy 7002, community organization capital and operating grant, and directs administration to forward it to the next available governance and priorities committee meeting.
Okay, motion on the floor, all in favor? Carried.
Just for your information, I'm already on the January 24th agenda for GMP.
Okay, good.
I knew you guys would do that.
Okay, so we got this surprise 6.5, which is the Whitecourt Horse Club extension.
Yes, so this just came in, and because you approved the recreation grant, I feel that it's your decision to approve the extension. I don't really have a recommended action other than approving the extension. So I don't know if you know what happened, but Lynn broke her leg severely, like bad. And she's, a few months ago at the Golden Agers Christmas lunch, she was in a wheelchair.
QS.
It's bad, so, and you know she's a big lead on this, but the other thing they hit, I included their breakdown with their budget, that they were unable to get some insurance in 2023 due to those fires because it's new. So they just hit some snags, so, as I mentioned on the little sticky I gave you, their grant was for $2,000, and they spent $576, so they were requesting that the remainder of that $1,423 to just be extended into 2024. I see no problem, we've already given them the money, unless anybody has any major concerns, but my recommended action is that we give them the extension.
So you're just looking for a motion to extend the fund expenditure for the Whitecourt Horse Club grant? So
Yes.
I can make that motion.
You can make that motion?
Okay, motion on the floor, all in favor? I think it's great. Sometimes things just don't always work out, hey?
We're just checking stuff off, you guys are awesome.
Okay, so we're gonna loop back to item 5, which is the round table, because we don't wanna forget about that.
Yeah.
Okay? Who wants to go first? Dave?
I'm just, I really enjoyed going. It was a lot of reading, but I did spend 3 nights going through the old survey results and and the new ones. So I just, as a newer member of Woodlands County, and I was not aware of any of these things, right? So just having completed the survey and then seeing the results and seeing the difference between, the two reports it was just nice to see what Woodlands County members are feeling and thinking, right, in regards to the needs. So, yeah, just excited to be part of that. So.
Thank you for taking the time to read it.
Tracy?
I don't really have much. I just want to hope that if we do go forward with a town meeting with them, that we can accomplish something as a partnership and be a win-win for our residents. So.
Go ahead.
I don't know, I don't know. I don't know.
That's okay.
Just your opportunity to take the time to, if there's something you want to share that was kind of something you've seen in the community that you would like to see more of, just, this is just your chance in the meetings to do that, so.
Okay, well, I have, based on, the people that I know, I do know that a lot more people would like something closer, like an ice rink closer to Whitecourt. Because a lot of people I've heard talk about that, and I'm actually surprised it didn't come up as one of the top things for the recreational survey, because I do feel like that is something that, a lot of people, especially knowing how many people, how big of a hockey town this is, there's lots of people in the county, too, that also do, a lot of that stuff, and it's, there's only 3 in Whitecourt, and then that's about it for outdoor, because, with just the 2 main rinks in Whitecourt, everything's booked up all the time, so it's kind of hard to get time other than actual hockey and stuff, so.
Are there other ones, Tina, in the communities, in the little playgrounds or areas? Do you know? When you did your party park thingies, was there other arenas?
There's, well, you guys have one.
There's Percy has one, Central
There
has
might be
one, there's one by
5.
St. Anne's and Pat Hardy.
I think the one by St. Anne's is getting fixed. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's actually up
Okay.
and going right
They
now.
just actually, Janet Kewen, they just posted a thing. They used their drone and and took pictures of the outdoor rinks in town, so I think they're all operating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe there's 4, so
Yeah,
there's those
there's
3,
4.
Yeah.
and then one on Park Drive
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
in that.
So
And
you'd like to see something more? Is that what you're thinking that?
Well, it's just as like,
In the county.
yeah, in the county. Because there's also, like, we also have to, from all over the county, people, well, from like the general area of Whitecourt, people also just have to go to town for that. And like maybe something kind of like the egg grounds or somewhere around there.
There is one, both at Anselmo and at Blue Ridge. And both of those facilities are well used and very well maintained. But that's an interesting idea, one at the egg grounds.
Community Development Fund. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you.
How are you finding, I'm sorry, I don't mean to take over, but how are you finding the committee so far? It says, a few meetings under your belt.
It's like nice to learn about like the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and I have learned a bit of stuff from the meetings too, and it's interesting, so.
Cool, okay.
Awesome.
It's January. Everything's like starting to get really, really busy, so it's crazy. For the Indigenous Society, we have a whole lot of new blood, and they're so like, like go-getters, and we just have so many plans, and it's kind of exciting that way because we're that much closer to a friendship center. So, and that's about all I have for anything so far.
Alan?
A couple things. One, I'm gonna put in a plug for the Whitecourt Cats football team. We were blessed to have a gentleman associated with that program for almost 30 years, and he has retired. So Kevin Babiak, who had been the head coach forever, has retired. And the program is in real jeopardy at this point because there is no head coach, and there's nobody within either of the school divisions that is the logical candidate. And so the parent group is in the process of trying to raise awareness in the community, but I just wanted to make this group aware that team needs a coach. Otherwise, it doesn't have a coach. There's not going to be a team. And I've been an assistant coach for the past couple of years and really enjoyed that. But I'm not the right guy because I'm just at that point in my life that season comes at a time when my wife and I want to enjoy our lake property, and I can't say to my wife, no, we'll do that in 5 years, So there are there's 3 or 4 people listening that can provide support, but none of us are really equipped to be the head person. And so, as I say, there's going to be an awareness campaign that's going to start in the next month, I would say. But please put that on your radar, all of you people, if you, in your conversations with various people out in the community, if somebody's expressing interest in football or has a background, please bring it to my attention.
Is that all?
I think that's all, yeah.
For myself, I think the one thing that park parties, which are, I know it's a town of Whitecourt event, but of course we always welcome the Woodlands County, and we're doing 2 this year, so we're doing one February 7th and one March 7th. So we're looking forward to we live in a country where it's winter 80% of the time, so we decided to make sure that we're doing those things, getting people out. So look for the posters for that. They'll be out very shortly, and very similar, we'll be doing the Doll Drive one in February. There might be snow. We were kind of worried about that up until yesterday. So toboggan down with light. We have all the glow lights, and Pembina Pipeline is sponsoring hot dogs again and some door prizes and stuff like that. And then we'll be doing the skating rink. at Percy again, so, in March. Hopefully it won't be as soft this year, so it's always hard to get out, but I think that's it for me, just some community event stuff that I've been kind of involved in, so.
I have one thing that I know you guys want to get going, but just real quick, that I should have mentioned in my report. I wanted to get your feedback on having Family Fun Day in September again. I know we thought it was successful, but I had an idea that the government of Alberta came out with an Alberta Days grant for, I think it was $5,000 for communities our size. I don't know if the date is as flexible as I'd like it, but if we have an Indigenous, if we kick that up a notch, I could apply for that funding. And council gave us $5,000 extra. If I can get another $5,000, we could have a really cool party in September. And I talked to Carrie a little bit. She was going to bring it up to the Whitecourt Indigenous Friends Society because I see the potential. We had the teepee and the Tales from the Teepee in 2023, which was widely, I won't even say widely, it was just everybody loved it.
Yeah.
So if we can kick that up a notch, I'd have to check the parameters of the grant. But I'd like to I was going to talk to Mr. Frank and Joan about this idea. But I'd like to, if this is something the committee is interested in going from that July to September again, just to see what you think. And even if we can't get the grant, September really worked.
So does this Alberta Days grant, is in for September?
Yes, I think it was, okay, so Mr. Frank gave that to me last year when we were like a month out from Family Fun Day, and he said, I need you to join it together, and I was like, I can't write a grant in that amount of time. It came out really fast last year. I think we'll have more time. But I think it was around that September 1st weekend, Labor Day weekend. I don't know the dates on it for 2024 yet. It has not, request for proposals or applications hasn't come out yet.
Was that the
But I
one
know,
in Blue Ridge?
pardon?
Was that the one that you had in
Yeah, Blue Ridge Family Fun Day.
Okay.
Yeah, we moved it to September. And we had the Tales from the Teepee with Sasha. Yeah, so you guys think that that's something I could go further up the chain with and maybe have a report back in February? What do you think? Okay? Because that'd be really cool to make a big party out there.
As long as the weather permits. I mean, we had a beautiful day, but.
Yeah, September was, we couldn't have asked for better days, but July
It's
could
taking a
be
chance,
rain too, or we
yeah,
could
for
be on
sure.
fires, right? Like, that's the other thing that I was thinking about with the drought that we're in, and we could be in fire season again next July, so.
It's September 1st for Alberta Day 2023.
Did it? So maybe.
But
we-
I
Yeah.
can't find it.
And I didn't, we'd already done all of our advertising for September 9th, so I said we can't switch it, and so. Yeah. If you guys support that, I will talk to Ms. Joan about that, yeah. Thank you.
Do you want a motion or anything for that?
No,
You
that was
want-
just, I was
okay,
just getting your idea, I don't wanna.
Okay, and what, I guess I have one more last thing, just sidebar, just because Ted Zattery has taken on a different role in the detachment, and we're doing a kind of a going away party for him on February 9th, and you'll see advertisement coming out soon. I just wanted to save the date. It's gonna be like 3 to 5 at the casino. Quick saying goodbye, because he's taken on the Danko position for all of WAD, so he's still gonna be living in the community, he's just not at our detachment, so we wanted to formally say goodbye, so.
He said he's above Greg, he's upstairs at Greg's.
Yeah. Yeah, so he doesn't live with us anymore, so, but we want to say goodbye officially from Woodlands County and the town, so. Okay, anybody else have anything else verbal up while we were talking? No? Then it's number 7, the adjournment motion. Do we need a motion?
6:56, no, it's already on the agenda.
On the agenda. Okay,
I just have to note the time.
thank you, everyone.
Awesome.